Well, hello everyone. It's Ergo Josh here again, and today I wanted to do one of my more old school kind of videos where I just chat while you watch me draw something. But this time, it's not only going to be a screen recording, you get to see my hands, the famous hands that started this channel at work. But I do have a topic that I want to focus on today, and that's drawing without expectation of how the end result will turn out. To be honest, that has felt like trying to run without bending your knees. It's really hard because it's like, what's the point of drawing if I don't care about how it's going to turn out? I want it to look good, right? I want to draw something that I had in mind. But for me, it's been about just trying to draw to get the mileage in. I found that I got way too caught up in how things turned out and what people would think and how quickly I was able to draw and how accurate it was with everything. If you saw my community post, I shared a bit about one of the drawings where I stopped stressing so much about the perspective being perfect. And I noticed that I kind of went back to drawing how I used to draw a few years ago, and I didn't even notice that I had changed. Basically, what I do is I just make every single line really loose and fluid, no matter how accurate it may or may not be. And what that does is it always results in a drawing that looks good, even if it isn't accurate, because of how energetic the lines are. If you're watching this video and you like my work, or you just want to get better at drawing, I really recommend that you try it yourself. Try drawing without using the undo tool too much, or really, that's not even that bad. Try not to use the lasso tool too much to cut up your drawing like I usually do. Just use the undo tool or erase lines completely, but make every single line that you draw really loose, really fluid, and you'll end up with a drawing that looks good just because of that. And even if it doesn't look that good, you're training yourself to draw that way, and it forces your brain to be accurate and aesthetic at the same time. So eventually, what I've noticed is that even if I don't really like how accurate the result was at the end, I gained a little bit of experience learning how to make the right stroke the first time. And with the next few drawings I do, they end up being a little bit more accurate. And then I get the bonus of having really nice fluid lines to boot. But another really awesome benefit of trying to draw more without worrying about how the end result is or if it's going to be something that's usable is that I end up learning to trust myself more. And I think that is a huge component to being an artist, because you have to surrender a little bit, I think, to your natural quirks to stand out and to find out what your style is or what your interests are. If you try to force yourself to have a result, you miss out on those opportunities to notice these kind of happy accidents. But I don't even want to say happy accident, because it's like one breadcrumb that leads to a really cool result that you weren't intending on. It isn't a single moment where it's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. What a happy accident. It's like this little quote unquote mistake or deviation leads to something else, and you just keep following the rabbit hole and you end up somewhere that's really cool and unique that you could never have anticipated before. And it gives you that special thing, right? What do they call it in French? The thing that you can't put into words, the je ne sais quoi, right? That element that makes you stand out, I feel like it comes from following that rabbit hole enough to where you find out what it is, and then you could choose to replicate it. And that's really cool. It's still amazing to me after all this time how people notice it. No matter how skilled they may be or experienced they may be, they just know when something is fresh and authentic. I've noticed that I have a lot of engagement on really simple things that I'll share on Instagram in particular. And I feel like a lot of times it's because there's this element that I can't really explain that's familiar. And I think a lot of people can relate that even though it's familiar to other people, I still don't exactly know what it is that people see that makes it obvious that it's something that I drew, especially since I look at so many artists' work consistently as inspiration and guidance for the type of look that I'm going for. To share a few of those artists with you, one that's pretty well known is TB Choi, right? Very bold, loose gestural lines, but also very crisp shadows in her line work. And I also look at Hikem Habchi a lot. His work has a lot straighter lines, but they also have this grace to them. And it's easy to tell where things are, even though I believe his shadows, I think he does a little bit more texturing than bold black shadows in his line work. But even looking at artists like that are very well established, drawing characters and figures, people still see something unique in my work. And I think that's really cool and amazing. And it comes from sitting down to draw just to get the time in, just to sit down and look at a reference and say, all right, I'm going to draw this and I'm just going to sit here and do it and try my best not to stress about how it's going, but to just pay attention to the drawing itself, to just get out of the way, but also still be here present with the whole process. It's hard to explain, but if you've been drawing for a while, you can probably relate to what I'm trying to say. And I think it's worth practicing and trying to get into the flow of it's almost like turning off. It's not turning off your emotions, but maybe it's just removing your ego in a way, and not the way ego is usually used as some sort of like arrogant thing. Just like pretending you're just your body and you have a task to draw this drawing, and you have to do the best you can with everything you've learned, and thoughts about how bad you are or how you should have known better or how it's going or how long it's taking are just not allowed, right? It's just, this is there. I want to draw that. I will draw a line. Maybe that doesn't look exactly how I wanted it. Is it going to be a big deal to undo? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I just keep going and see how this goes. Maybe I'll duplicate the whole layer a few times and just save that as a save point that I can come back to later if I overdo it, and you just keep chugging away at that. Maybe you can only do that for 5 minutes, but even then, I think that's a really, really helpful thing. And I've seen a lot of improvement myself regardless. So I recommend it. And it's made drawing men a lot easier for me, to be honest. I've been doing that quite a bit lately, trying to get my men quota in for 2025 so I can go back to my usual thing. But jokes aside, it's been nice, and I think it's easier for me to just see how things go. There's less expectation for me drawing men usually, because it's just like, well, I can't mess it up. It just may or may not look like how I want it to look. Whereas I feel a lot more uptight drawing women, where I feel like I can mess it up regardless if it looks like the likeness I'm going for or not. But to be honest, I think all that's just in my head. And ideally, I think I'd want to see a merging of both of those sentiments when I'm approaching drawing anyone. But yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now. I just wanted to talk. I just wanted to share some stuff while I have a drawing video playing, like the old days, like the good old times. If you're interested in the brushes that I'm using, it's my Procreate Ergo Sketch 3.0 pack, as usual. I find that the traditional sketch brush, what is it called specifically? I should know the name of my brushes, right? The Ergo Draw Tradition. It gives me this really nice, rough, natural look to my sketches. But when I use my regular Ergo Draw brush, they look a lot more digital arty, a lot more concept arty, which I think is just as appealing as the other. So it's been fun to play with both of those two brushes. Those are my favorite brushes to use to draw, for example, if you want to somehow follow along with this. And of course, I got to plug Paperlike in here a little bit. I'm using the screen protector and the Paperlike pencil tip on the Apple Pencil you see me using in the video. And I'm still using the M2 iPad Pro, still going strong. I was able to get the cooler off of it, finally. It actually, I'm going to be honest with you guys, just having the fan that I use off to the side and blowing air in the general direction of my iPad is quite enough to keep it from making it so hot that my hand gets sweaty. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to do that whole contraption that I was using before. But I will say I'm not recording on my iPad via the screen recording feature anymore. So that does help keep it cool. I'll probably just put some music at the end. But the last thing I wanted to talk about was just how watching old anime and the time period that it's set in, kind of like 80s, 90s Japan, has influenced how this character ended up going. It was really interesting. I've been watching Detective Conan, and I just felt like drawing this loose gangster dude with tattoos that's shirtless, very chill, non-serious, laid back attitude and expression. I just felt like I could hear his voice and how he'd move and everything. He would fit so well into this environment. I think I was influenced by Richard Moore, the detective that Jimmy is staying with in Detective Conan. His expressions helped quite a bit. He's quite an expressive guy in that anime. But yeah, I always find it interesting how easy it is for me to absorb whatever I'm listening to or looking at as I'm working. And I started listening to a lot of techno EDM as I worked on this as well, just because it's something that I like. But also I was thinking of one of my favorite artists, Alberto Melgio, and the short film that he worked on for Love, Death, and Robots called The Witness. And then also the short film trailer for a video game, Watch Dogs. I think it was Watch Dogs 2. Yeah. And the music is just, I really like that music that he has. It seems like it's very similar from similar artists, from Tommy 47. Yeah. And I've been listening to that, and that influenced how this went again. I just started to imagine him in a club or just walking around with the beat to the music, and it all fell into place. It was really cool. I wonder if any of you experienced that. Sometimes it can be great. Sometimes it can be terrible because it's unintentional and you're going for one thing, but because you have something going on in the background that's a completely different vibe, it skews what you're going for, or it just makes you really confused. But yeah, I think that'll be it for this video. It's a little bit of an experiment just to see how, just to hang out, catch up with you guys a bit. And I found that online, the whole creator environment is changing quite a bit. It seems like maybe people are only interested in long form things if it's less produced because it's overwhelming, and the whole concept of tutorials in the art space could be overwhelming. But when it's really short and sweet, it seems to work. Especially for me, I've noticed on Instagram with my reels. But then I still see people who are the exception doing whatever really well. So I don't know. I have been a lot more interested in making short form content as of late because it seems, just to be completely honest, it seems a lot more worth the effort, but it's also a lot less effort overall when you put in all your editing chops into just 90 seconds versus 20 minutes. It's just a lot less grueling of a process. I'm sure you can imagine, even if you've never edited a video, a minute to 90 seconds is completely different than, a 10 to 20 minute video. So yeah, I will leave you all to enjoy the rest of this process and keep drawing, stay balanced, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.